Everything was ready. God, you're pretty good at signing up. I know. It's not a team. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I have an address just so you know. Okay, good. Where'd you go? I've been to 3 years, but I didn't think I helped. Oh, okay.
Oh, you're good.
Kim, how's the trainer?
It was fantastic. Yeah, have you ever taken the one?
No, it's on my to-do list.
It is great. I really, really like it.
I'd get operating truck.
Yeah, yeah, we can get right off from Truckee. This time on our way back, we got off in Santa Fe and ended up for 6 days in Santa Fe. Oh,
Must be going through those snow sheds.
yeah. Just, it's so much fun. Where'd you go? Went out to San Francisco by train and then went down to Los Angeles and then came back from Los Angeles.
Oh, awesome. You got out just in time.
Yeah. Well, my daughter lives there, so
Oh, she okay?
not so much. Yes, she is okay, and she's one of the lucky people who still has a house. But the vast majority of people she knows and all the places we were, everything else is gone.
That's horrible.
It's just.
It's 5:30. If we're okay, we're starting the meeting, and I think the first order, if you don't mind. Can we go to the election to that first before we do minutes?
Absolutely.
I think the first order of business would be to have a report nominating.
So, the report. So the nominating committee asked for any nominations, and what we came up with would be Paul Foley as chairman, Chuck as vice chair, and Amy as secretary. That'd be Paul.
I don't know if that's slate official. Are there any nominations on the floor different from that? If so, I'll entertain a vote to accept the nomination slate as presented by the nominating committee. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I guess we'll move on then. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yeah.
You have a motion on them? Motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Comments, additions, deletions, subtractions, anybody? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Chairman's remarks. The new chairman has no remarks. I will get with the director and the staff and keep the board apprised of communications we have with respect to the business going forward, okay?
Well, congratulations. Yeah, later.
Trish, director's remarks.
On that, one thing we've been discussing internally and would be a great first business, like order of business that we'll sit down with Paul and we can all work on is really incorporating the strategic development plan now. Like now that it was fully adopted at the end of December, we can start referring back to it, incorporating it in our reviews, and it's a tool that we can use when we're looking at some of these applications. We're going to work on trying to incorporate exact references into our reports themselves. But we've been working through some hiccups on accessibility through the website. It was a really, really big document. It was really beautiful because it had a lot of local photography incorporated, but they made for a really big file. So I think, yeah, it's all there now on the elevatecortland.com website, and we'll be reposting that on our county planning website coming up soon. So that's something internally we want to build like a tracking system for it, to be able to look at progress that's being made within the county on the initiatives and objectives that are outlined in the plan. And I've talked to like a few different directors, like actually I talked to Ilya a little bit today from Pine Hollow on how can we get the feedback too from the community on if they're using it. Just to kind of track, like, is this really helpful for you? What areas are you referencing and are you using this in your applications? So food for thought anyway, I like to share that. We'll work on that. And for those that weren't here in December, Hank is our new land use planner, so we're really excited to have him up and running. Also, I apologize, the report for the moratorium was not in the agenda until today. The hard copy is available. We approved the law, but I'm not sure how we missed it being incorporated into the agenda. This wasn't in that full PDF.
It's online.
You don't like to see a copy. Yeah, yep, we've got the hard copies of the report.
So, can I ask you a question, about the usage of the strategic planning? And that is, you mentioned, Ilya, et cetera. How are you all going to help others use it to write grants, et cetera? How are you tracking that movement?
That's what we're trying to brainstorm, what a good process would be and how we could do that. I think that there's a lot of different boards and a lot of times in this community, there's a lot of the same players involved. So it would just be trying to access most of those different, agency directors, I think, to get the feedback from them if they're using, how they're using, and if they're referencing the communities. But that's exactly what we're working on, trying to figure out how we can do it. Because the plan does outline specific agencies that they think would be, was felt that would be like the main stakeholder to take on an initiative. But it's on us, once we build that spreadsheet, then we'll go through and reach out to those stakeholders, like, is this something that you feel like you want to follow through on? Are you going to, and have you used the plan? And can you let us know when we do use it? Yeah, it's like, that was a really big process, and now like the real work begins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was remiss, but actually Chuck was remiss. We have a visitor. Could you please identify yourself? I'm sorry.
Tom Abrams from Trouble.
And you're here with regard to which particular item? Trouble?
I'm sorry, Tom, what was that?
Abrams, ABRAMS.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Anything else? Nothing? Okay. Before we start the reviews, I had sent you an email regard to some recent media with regard to what's going on. I didn't reach out to anybody to tell me what we got to give us clarification.
So the county attorney, I talked to the county attorney and she said she would be happy to attend a planning board meeting if collectively we want to have a conversation. And the local Preble attorney has reached out to her. So just to be clear, I think we're talking about the short-term rental,
Yes.
the short-term rental regulations that were proposed by the town of Preble. And this board voted to deny the short-term regulations as they were proposed. So the town had a vote on adopting them. And so in order for them to not take our vote into consideration, they would have needed a supermajority, but they did not have a supermajority. So it originally failed, and they had a special meeting, and then they had concluded that our resolution as written, they felt like was not clear enough. So the Preble town attorney had reached out to our attorney, and she thought that we were covered, that our resolution was explicit enough. But they had voted to disregard our resolution, and move forward. So, that was a decision that the town made. She, supported this board, and agreed with our decision. And as we discussed in our last meeting, agreed that we were well within our role, and that your perspective is to look at negative countywide impacts, and that was, you were not outside of your jurisdiction to deny it. So at this point, the town is moving forward with their recent decision to move forward with it regardless of the supermajority, and that's where it stands. But she did share that she'd be happy to come attend, any of our planning board meetings and have additional conversation.
Troubling to me is the unanimity that our board spoke with at the last meeting with regard to how we felt in regard to the county as a whole and the strategic plan that you've already mentioned twice tonight.
Right.
That,
And I think that at the time that they voted, unfortunately, our plan hadn't been adopted yet. So that can't be used as part of that conversation. Yeah. I mean, if it was 3 weeks later, that absolutely could have been referenced and part of our resolution,
So Tricia, does this set a precedent that, we'll send it to the Cortland County Planning Board, and if we don't like what they say, we'll do what we want anyways? I mean, it kind of felt like a slap in the face.
next thing you know, Cortland, Bill, Virgil, and Homer are doing the same thing.
And even though I voted the other way, I agree with 100%. I don't see how you do that.
Yeah.
And I think it would behoove the county attorney to write an opinion. And I think personally, I don't know, if it opens up the town, are 78 proceedings or not, because it sounds like they didn't follow procedures to me.
Yeah.
Unless he has valid reasons why they couldn't accept our decision.
One of the things that wasn't mentioned in the discussion that we had at the time, and I made a mistake in many ways of not discussing anything at the time because I didn't think I was supposed to. But we didn't talk about the fact that there are zoning rules. And all of the houses involved in this are zoned R1L, which means that short-term rentals are not allowed under those zoning rules. So that was a part of
But
it.
the general municipal law wasn't specifying these particular houses or those particular houses. It was townwide.
It is town-wide, but it also is referring to short-term rentals around the lakes.
The only point I think, I don't have anything to do with the discussion we're having here about what we did or what the short-term rentals or anything else. We made a decision as board, and they needed a supermajority to not abide by that, and they just chose not to do that. To me, that sounds like a strict violation of.
That makes us feel that our meeting is futile.
So, yeah, why are we, even though I agree with you on the law itself, and I didn't vote that way, the board did though. The board took an action, and they voted a certain way, and the fact that trouble can just ignore that, if they feel like it, doesn't make any sense.
I think we definitely want to talk to the county attorney.
Yeah.
We'll meet with the county attorney, but I'm wondering, that puts us on another 2 months of waiting.
Well,
But it's.
we need it for future, going forward, we need to know what's going on.
Or if the board would entertain it, I would be happy to meet the county attorney with yourself and then apprise everybody of it, as opposed to waiting another 30 days.
Absolutely.
And then another 30
I mean,
days.
what's gonna stop the town of Virgil now from saying, oh, yeah,
Wants to do that.
the town of Hartford, with their board.
We have all these laws we say yes or no to, all these applications. It's not just the laws, it's other things that we might say to them.
Yeah, it's a precedent. What do we do with all these other towns?
So I just sounds very.
Who's the county attorney, Victoria?
Victoria Martin.
And her partner,
Jerry Ball.
her is.
Jerry Ball.
Okay.
It was the Pebbles attorney that.
No.
Don Armstrong is the town attorney.
But I mean, he said that we don't need a supermajority.
Papers.
Yeah.
And all we know is the paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay. Which in many instances is
She's not always correct.
yeah,
And I spoke to Don on several instances, and I reiterated that I reached out to other counties when drafting the resolution and asked, I looked into everything I could find, and from what I could see, that's exactly how it was to be written, and it matched with 239. And I talked to the attorney about it afterwards, the county attorney, and she thought it looked kosher. So
yeah, there's two things at play. There's the specifics, which as Chuck's pointed out, he voted against, but there's a bigger picture. Why are we meeting?
Right.
And I think,
Correct.
I guess I'd entertain a motion from the board that authorizes myself and
I'll make a motion for that. I think there should be some.
to meet with the county attorney and then to apprise you of where we ended up with the county attorney.
I read the article and I felt like it was a slap in the face.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Lori made the motion. Do we have a second?
I said,
Chuck second. Further comment on it? And I'm pretty much available. Okay, try to fit it in my schedule here.
I'll get hold of her tomorrow.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Do you want to continue?
So, from the town of Preble, we have another local law. This is a moratorium on wind energy conversion systems. So, we received it on December 19th. This is written in a very similar manner to other moratoriums for wind energy systems that we've seen throughout the county. Section 1 incorporates the title, also known as a temporary townwide moratorium on the installation of wind energy conversion systems. The couple is seeking a 270-day moratorium on the wind energy conservation systems, or the WECS, to allow time to develop the regulations for the systems, which are currently unregulated in the town regulations. The moratorium applies to both pending and future applications. And while the regulation states that while the energy offers environmental benefits, the town acknowledges potential issues such as visibility, land use impacts, including tree clearing and roadway construction. The goal is to regulate the placement of the systems in a way that balances the benefits of such systems with potential negative effects. Section 3 emphasizes the need to create these regulations and the importance of postponing projects until the regulations can be enacted. Paragraph A in section 3 does refer to solar energy system installations. Therefore, we recommend that the town of Preble change that word to wind. Section 4 defines the wind energy conversion systems as a machine that converts the kinetic energy in the wind into a usable form commonly known as wind turbines or windmills, and is intended for commercial or residential use. Section 5 goes over the scope of controls, which indicate that during the effective period of this moratorium, the town board or the code enforcement officer will not approve, process, or decide on any applications for the installation of these systems except specified in section 6, which covers hardship. That indicates that if the property owner faces unnecessary hardship due to the strict application of this local law, they can apply in writing to the town board for a waiver. And section B goes over the process to do this. Section 7 and 8 goes over penalties and conflicting laws superseded. The penalty is set between $100 to $500 per violation, and that's per day. Section 9 and 10 just reviews that the board indicates that the board has the ability to override certain regulations in New York State town law concerning time limits for land use applications, and that if a court deems a provision invalid, only the specified provisions will be affected, while the rest of the law will remain intact. And the remaining sections go over the term and the effective date obviously effective upon filing, and that's the 270-day term for them to really develop the regulations for these systems. And finally, this is considered a type 2 action under seeker, and does not require, as it's the adoption of a moratorium, and does not require the completion of an environmental assessment form. So the staff recommends the adoption of the proposed local law establishing a temporary townwide moratorium on the wind energy conversion system, only under the following: that they update the word solar to wind.
Staff is recommending approval of the resolution. Somebody like to make that motion, adopt the staff's recommendation. And a second. Further discussion on it, folks?
No, just
Well, it's just a more.
Sorry. It's more. But at the same time, we live in New York State. In New York State, we have a laws that are now in place, and we have established goals that our state is trying to reach for renewable energy. And I think we need to be thinking about how we accomplish those goals for our state here and at the local level and as well as at the state level. So while we can agree to have a moratorium for 270 days on something like this, I think we should be putting wording in there to say that we are supportive of meeting the requirements of New York State. And that is one of our goals in the Cortland Planning Board in Cortland itself to help meet the goals of the state. So somewhere in there, I think we need to talk about the climate change, the reasons why we are trying to transform our energy system. And I think that should be a focus for for the planning board in there. So I don't know how to get any of that wording in there, but I feel it's important that we're trying to support what our state is trying to do.
In addition, our strategic plan also places emphasis on energy as well.
Exactly.
I don't disagree. My only thought is, would that be more appropriate once they present the regulations? I think that I can add anything that you like, and I don't disagree that that's, that those goals have been set forth, and I think that those goals are only going to be achieved by diversification of different renewable energy opportunities. And I think that there's been a lot of conversation, especially in the planning community, about how we can't put all our eggs in one basket with solar, that we need to have other sources if these goals are really going to be achievable. So I don't disagree at all, but this is simply saying that they want to create the regulations to be able to accept these projects.
They,
So,
they want to write the rules, 270 days to do it.
right, they're not saying they don't want them. They're not saying they don't want to have wind energy conversion systems. I just don't want to use, I'm afraid, to be honest, I'm afraid that if we utilize our resolutions as a platform to really push that message, which, although I think it's a message that they need to understand, I don't think our formal resolutions that we send back to them is the appropriate place to send that message. That's my only thought, because they're not saying they don't want to do it. And maybe once their regulations come back, if those regulations are really restrictive, then I think that's the time to say, listen, this is.
We're not going to approve it.
Recommendation on changes, but some of them through where it seems somewhere, you have to be 1,000 feet from the next property, and okay, you're not gonna have them period. So the places in town be put. There are some people written regulations. So I think that's the appropriate time to see if that regulation.
It sounds like
restricts.
they want to start the water. Yeah, and I would hope that their thought process is to include you in the discussion.
So,
I would hope that.
so is there any way we could put wording in of that nature, just that?
I think So when we write our resolution that we send back to them and they read, they are very, very, specific to just our recommendations. And so we don't, I mean, that's up to your discretion. And I see your point, but I'm also afraid that if there's nothing wrong with this moratorium, then I don't think I have not seen in the past, and I have not seen other counties incorporate those types of, those types of points in the resolutions at this time. I think that once they create the regulations, if they're very restrictive and don't allow it, that's the time to add clauses in the resolution of a whereas, the planning board feels that this law inhibits, when, potential projects, and that could negatively affect, the state goals or county goals. I think that that's the appropriate time to address that. I'm not sure that a moratorium on it while they create regulation is really good. That's just my thought.
Are there informal ways to let them know that might be one standard that some of the planning board members might be evaluating any potential laws that are coming out of these discussions during the moratorium? Because I think that's kind of what, it would be nice to give them a heads up rather than,
Yeah.
When
saying the words that I'm
Like
trying
I said,
to.
nice if they included the county director planning in their discussion.
Exactly.
But who knows?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to reach out and ask them to share drafts or to communicate or to.
Well, we may have that opportunity to have a wide-ranging discussion here imminently.
Right.
We can bring that up as an aside.
Right.
just a more collaborative approach rather than a rubber stamp at the end of the process that they spend a lot of time on.
Exactly. Thanks,
Yeah,
Gwen.
no.
I appreciate you putting the words out.
Yeah, so, I mean, do you feel like you would like to? Because I'm not opposed to that if the board would like to alter the recommendations as put in the. I think
Actually, I think you hit the nail on the head where it's really just about a moratorium.
But if there's some way, back channel way of trying to make the knowledge known
Yeah.
that the planning board is thinking about long-term climate change and green energy and having multiple sources of energy.
Absolutely, and I think to Paul's point, maybe this will all be great to have in one full conversation.
Yes, well, by the way, there was another thing. Now that we agree on it.
I mean, that's the ideal, that's our hope, that's what we always try to encourage municipalities to not feel like they need to work on some of these items in a box. That it's better in the long run for both them and us to be able to work with them. And I think that Preble did reach out during like their comprehensive plan update, for example. We worked with them during that process. And some municipalities have chosen to really work collaboratively, and then some municipalities kind of are, working along on their own on things. And we try to make sure they know that we're available, but we can't really force anybody's hand on that. So.
Any further discussion?
I have a little issue with the severability clause there. I mean, is it common that would be in a moratorium that you're going to, go above and beyond to take off?
I mean, I think Hank had looked up a lot of different examples and it was in a few, it wasn't in all of them. We thought the same thing, we had the same conversation, that it's kind of strange. I don't really know where it could be.
It sounds like it's aiming at the same direction as our last law that was put up there.
But again, and honestly, before we finalize the resolution on this, I could touch bases with our county attorney to get a little more clarification on that as well.
Yeah, I wondered if the legality of it how legal is it? To what
Yeah,
extent
yeah.
that you
Do
can
they have a
sever
right of
yourself?
independence up
Yeah,
there?
right. Right.
Yeah. But they're the ones that would have to be upholding this law, so their legal counsel would be the ones liable,
Yeah.
for any, we've always clarified that we and our staff are not, attorneys. And that's why each of these municipalities have their own legal counsel to represent them and ensure, legal compliance.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Dan, I think that's several is in every,
Think?
relation county has.
Mm.
They all do that, just say, if we make one little mistake and on 500 pages, that doesn't, they're a whole lot.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
we saw the severability in all of them, but that's, that supersession, we saw in some, but not.
Right.
So.
Anybody else? We motion in a second. During any further discussion or amendments being offered? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Amy abstained.
Does anybody have any questions on the emails that were returned? They're listed there. There's a chance to look at it, where if there's
I didn't look at it.
any interest piqued by anybody, if not. We'll just move on. The announcement next meeting will be a month from now. And again, on that, and the director, and we'll have discussions with the county attorney about that one and about meetings going forward.
And then if you just didn't get the financial.
And yeah, anybody has financial disclosure.
You sent out bylaw change.
Oh, yeah.
That's
No, that was just an FYI that those got passed, just so everybody
all
has
we
a
need.
copy. Yeah, it was just like the updated copy, and I left the pages in red so everybody could see. Those were, so, thanks for bringing that up too, those were adopted by the legislature. Yep, I just have to go through resolution, and
So we don't need to act toward that.
there are a couple other things that I think would be good to continue discussing. And maybe this upcoming year, we could make a few more amendments. So they're not the end all to be all. We can make changes, and I think it's great to iterate on. I think that those bylaws really, were older and were open to more things. And also, all of you met Chris, our GIS planner. He's working on a GML tracker dashboard, which is really, really cool. He's like getting some drafts ready now, but you'll be able to basically sort by years and look at like 2024, and it'll pull up all the parcels that have GMLs on them. Like on a map, it'll be like interactive, like dashboard of GML trackers, or like you could even just go to like where like area variances for this year, and it'll just show you on the map. It's really cool. He started, I think Hank and him have been working on it. Yeah, oh, yeah, and Hank just gave us the first draft of a GML guidebook, which I think we talked about a little bit before as a tool to give to the municipalities and code enforcement officers. It lays out the process of GMLs really, really well. And even the first draft looks great. A lot of other communities have them, and I think it'd be great for us to have on our website. And ultimately, we want to get to like paperless submittals for GMLs with like a project flow. So the code enforcement officers can submit them online, and they'll come automatically to us. So we're working on that process in the background, and they're doing a great job. It's looking awesome. And also there's a new code enforcement officer in Cincinnati, Paul Sandy. Is code enforcement officer. So, and Jason Tuning in Cincinnati is still doing a great job, and they're working hard on their comprehensive plan. and doing a lot of great things in Cincinnati, so I'm excited.
A long career.
And also there's a new planning board chair in Scott. Yeah, so Janice Whitney, I think she actually works for Cornell Cooperative Extension. So she's getting her feet wet and we're giving her some information and she seems very involved.
Entertain the motion to adjourn. If there's nothing else, but.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Before we do, I'm gonna meet with the director. If anybody has a wish list of different things you'd like to see or see happen, or agenda items, or discussion items, please let me know beforehand. And I can summarily reject it and get back to you. Please feel free to just shoot me an email or something. Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.